and welcome to today's IGTV. Today I am talking about how to up your game with way better boundaries and less arguments and constant struggle, losing your crap when your teen doesn't do what it is that you've asked. Basic, simple things that we'd like to think don't have to feel this hard, but they do, right? Okay, I am live today here on Instagram. Hi, thanks for joining me. I'm also live in my free parenting community on Facebook. It Takes a Village. Hello. So this morning I am going to talk all about upping your boundaries game, because the only way to actually build mutual respect with your teenager so they do what you ask the first time without having to have the constant nagging, reminding, and then arguments, is actually to have better boundaries. And I know it sounds simple because I know you care, you're an incredible parent, and you have probably already tried all of the things. But what ends up happening is you are resorting to trying to create, I guess, more creative consequences, more frequent consequences, and then stiffer consequences and punishment to get your teen to step up, take responsibility, actually contribute, and learn some basic life skills. But it's not working. In fact, it might be making things worse and creating more defiance, eye rolls, the shoulder, or just flat out refusals. And now you don't trust your teen to do what it is you asked, and they're pissed because they need you to trust them in order to get the kind of autonomy that they want, but they're not doing that. So, okay, does this sound familiar with any of you? Any of my gorgeous parents, friends, mamas, dads who are out there watching? Is this boundary game something that's got you in a bit of a knickers and a knot? You're about tired of the whole thing? Okay, well, I am going to, apparently my book is being stolen by, yes, my file. Yes, okay, you are my people. Okay, so let's talk about this. So just to get a little more detail, okay? You're frustrated. And of course you are, like reasonably so. You're frustrated, angry, and resentful, even feeling defeated. Because, yes, I have notes, because if I don't have notes, girlfriend's gonna be like, blah, blah, blah. When you ask, you make a basic request, you just ask. They either don't do it, or like they say this is the worst part. They say they're gonna do it, and then they don't. And then they wonder why trust is being eroded between the two of you. Hello? Okay, so, or you get eye rolls, a shrug, or just flat out refusal. Like, no, you do it. I shouldn't have to do that, right? So of course, you are an amazing parent, and so you're trying to raise a good human. And although your child was kind of getting that memo by like 8 to 10, maybe even 12 years old, like they were coming along, you know, you were making progress. You're like, yeah, well done me. Okay, this is yes. Since puberty hit, that train has got no brakes. It is like completely derailing, and it's in a hot, fiery mess down some very steep embankment somewhere. And it is very difficult not to internalize as a parent that you are failing, that you are obviously a failure if you are raising some kind of lazy, irresponsible teenager. It's very difficult not to internalize this struggle and this pain, which again are very real. Okay? All right. So this is what most people will tell you to do. When your teenager is not stepping up and they're not doing what you ask, this is what most people will tell you to do. They're going to tell you either nicely, backhanded advice, criticism, or just outright shame. That's how they're going to tell you, by the way. Families, right? Judgment, criticism, hurt, not pretty. It's not pretty. They're going to tell you to be stricter and just use more consequences. Like, hello, what don't you get about this? This is what they're going to say to you, is like, you just need to use more punitive action. You just need to build more fear or pain, emotional pain, so your teen gets that you mean business and they snap back into action and they understand who is the boss. And that's you. So put on your parenting pants and get her done. This is what most people will tell you, right? Experts even will tell you this. Teachers, principals, coaches. Why? Because they were all raised in the same era that we were. That is why. So I'm sorry, I have a hair in my face and it's driving me crazy. Okay. So if your teen is being lazy and disrespectful, again, there's this direct correlation that somehow you are failing. But you, again, need to stand up and command respect to change their behavior. It's the only way this works. Have you been told that? Type a yes in the comments. Is that something that you're being told on how to change? Hi, thanks for joining me. Yeah, okay. So what they're saying, and maybe what you were taught, is you need to use threats, ultimatums, shame and criticism, manipulation, bribery, whatever it takes, because your reputation is at stake, right? So it looks like, just take the phone more often. And you might say, well, I tried that. And you're like, well, then you didn't take it long enough. You need to take it for a month. Just take it away completely, right? Or take the gaming and the tech. And you're like, well, I tried that for a weekend. And they're like, a weekend, take it for a year. So you're just supposed to be harsher, like keep notching it up. Offer rewards. Ooh, yeah, like that new pair of shoes they want. Or, like going out for a dinner they wanted to go, or getting a ride to this thing, or tickets to a concert. Yes, use bribery. That'll work. And then that's seriously, that's manipulation or bribery. Or they say like, you do this or else. Okay, well, that's a threat, and it doesn't work. So, but this is what you're probably being told to do, or either you do it or I will take your PlayStation out on the road and I will drive over it 50 times until it is something smaller than even the little bits that make it all put together. That is what you need to do. Or you need to just like dig at them a little more, like compare them to siblings. Like, well, your siblings didn't have this problem, or well, I talked to Jackie and her daughter isn't having this problem. Well, I talked to Sally and her son doesn't have this problem. So you start comparing your teen to friends or family. That will be how to make it work, right? The problem is you start to feel disappointed. You're always, in fact, disappointed. And your teen always feels judged and like a failure. And internally, this does not feel good. This kind of commanding, emotional, eliciting pain and fear, it doesn't feel good for you. Deep down. Even if it's creating a short-term shift or change, but you don't know another way, or you've never been taught another way, or the other ways haven't worked. But you know it doesn't feel right for you, right? Okay, so this is why it doesn't work. This is why it's actually wrong. And when I say wrong, I'm not saying that out of judgment, like at all. I mean scientifically, okay? Because I think we're all in the same boat on this. Like I was raised at the same, well, I'm old, I'm like older than Google. So like I was raised at a time when these are all the things that my parents used, and that's what they were taught. And so that's what I learned. So this is like a zero judgment space. I just want to make that real clear. The reason that going harder, stricter, more pain doesn't work is it is based in a behaviorist. It's a behaviorist methodology, okay, which focuses purely on the outcome, the action, the behavior that you see, and it uses another behavior or action, like your behavior or action, to try and change that behavior or action. Sadly, this was disproven in the 1960s. It was created by a psychologist in the 1920s, and it was disproven and even considered unethical and would never, ever stand up to many of the standards today in psychology, therapy, relationship studies, ever. Disproven in 1960, yet it is extremely pervasive, specifically in the school system, in our education institute, not because think of the timing of 1960, like that's like when your grandparents or your parents were being raised, and therefore that's what your parents learned and that's what you learned. And so it's going on generationally, even though we know scientifically it's not the actual way to lasting behavior change, okay? So that's scientifically why it doesn't work. It's been disproven decades ago. Also because fear is not a relationship. Fear with your teenager is not a like super awesome foundation for that trust and mutual respect that you want to build. It doesn't generally come from fear. Because this behavioralist thinking of using a behavior to change a behavior, it's very tit for tat thinking. It's very transactional. So it's like, oh yeah, you do that, I'm going to do this. Oh, you do that, I'm going to do this. You do that, I'm going to do this. And it creates this like whack-a-mole thing. Like, have you ever been at a fair? You know that game of whack-a-mole where like the mole is like popping up in different spots and you have to use the hammer to try and whack the mole down? That's essentially what this is creating. Is this just whack-a-mole where your teen is always finding different ways to pop up, but you can kind of never stay ahead of the game. So it's a losing venture. It's a losing venture for both of you. Okay. Okay. So behavior, I want to be really clear here. This is why it's wrong. Behavior is only a symptom. Behavior is the symptom of the problem. The behavior is not the source. Behavior is a symptom of the problem you're seeing, the frustration you're experiencing. It is not the source. Okay? So seeing only the behavior and then trying to confront the behavior by eliciting fear or pain of some kind, which by the way is the definition of punishment, okay? It lowers emotional awareness for your teen, like of like what's driving the behavior. It lowers their emotional awareness. It lowers emotional safety between you and your teen. It lowers trust. It lowers respect, and unfortunately, all those combined together are the secret sauce, scientifically proven recipe for connection, which it lowers. It lowers connection across the board. And connection is in fact the key thing that is required for lasting behavior change. Okay, my paper keeps getting grabbed by my, stage. The boxes sitting in front of me. So even though paying attention to behavior and using your behavior, like an action for you to try and change a behavior that you see, it feels safer. Of course, this is why we do it. It feels safer because it's linear. It makes sense. It's more like a math equation. It's like 1 + 1 = 2, or 1 - 1 = 0, right? So, oh yeah, you do this, that's a 1. Well, I'm going to minus that 1 with a note card. And if you've played Exploding Kittens, you know what that is. Like a note card with my action, and then we're going to end up with 0, and you're not going to do it again. Well, that would be awesome if relationships worked like a math equation. Woo! Easy street. That'd be awesome, right? If it was just like basic equation subtraction, we could all do it, and it would be fundamentally not a problem. The problem is, even though your action, your reaction perhaps, feels like really justified, it makes sense, it feels justified as a parent, of course it does. Been there, done that. Oh yeah, you do that, you are grounded, and you are grounded until you're lucky enough to get married, if that even happens. Like, it feels justified, right? But what it gets you is increased disrespect, increased defiance, and a massive increase in disconnection. That is what using these outdated and unhealthy relational tools that we were all taught, and our parents aren't bad. It's just that this is outdated relationship tools, okay? And the new way is still on the front edge. It's not like as well known as where I would certainly hope it would be, because why it's not taught in schools yet, and that is frustrating. Why are we not teaching these basic relationship things in schools? I don't know. Anyway, so stricter, all those things like threats, manipulation, coercion, guilt, all those things attempting to change your teenager's behavior with an action. It's negative reinforcement, because you are reacting. Whether you're being like calm about it or not, you are reacting, and so it's negatively reinforcing what you don't want. It's only pay attention to that. It's waiting, and it's punitive, which by definition is negative, okay? So it teaches, here is the backside, the kicker, the slap in the face. Using behavioralist parenting tools that rely on you to create an action for your teenager's behavior you don't want, hoping it will change. It teaches your teen that they can control other people and get what they want using the same unhealthy tools like manipulation, threats, guilt, bribery. Ouch. And what that means is your teen may actually swing around and use those with you, which is a super slap in the face. But I'm going to take this a step further as teens are growing up in a digital era. This is the scary part. Teens are using this on social media, sexting, sextortion, right? Where they're getting pictures of people using bribery, extortion, blackmail to get what they want. Young people newly in the romantic relationship realm are using these unhealthy tools because they think that's the way to get what you want, get your needs met. Scary. I did it. I was that teen. I gave up some private things, some very personal, intimate things, in exchange for what I thought was love, in exchange for what I thought was positive, emotional assurance, affirming, those kind of things. I thought relationships were a transaction of exchange. You give, I get. You give, I get. You don't give, I get. I use unhealthy tools. So really, really scary path. The last and final reason that this way of thinking does not work, absolutely will not work, is it is based on compliance. It is based in compliance and control, okay? Compliance requires perfection. It requires immediate obedience, which is diametrically opposed to your teenager's brain and their natural physiological development of their brain requiring greater and greater autonomy, which is why you're getting the pushback so badly. Because this outdated model is not becoming an ally in their increased need for autonomy and working with that to build respect, not to let them get their way, to build respect, okay? So it is entirely based on the outdated and wildly untrue lie that you and I were taught, which is that compliance equals respect. And it does not. You're welcome to look up the definitions, okay? Compliance is about getting someone to creating a sense of urgency where they need to do what you value and you want immediately. That's not a relationship, okay? Respect is about admiring and taking into consideration other people's needs, values, and emotions, and having that as the basis of the relationship where you are building that together. That's mutual respect, okay? So I want to be really, really clear here. You as a parent are not failing. You never have been. You are not failing. The model you were taught and the model you are using is failing you. Your teen's not failing you. The outdated model that you were taught and are using is failing you. That's why I do this work, and that's why I want to change this, because you deserve better. And I think your teen deserves to understand relationships in ways that perhaps you didn't, and have you as their guide. All right, so what should you do then? Okay, so what should you do? Go to the source. Go to the source, the emotions. See, if you're looking only at the behavior and you're trying to change the behavior and you're constantly only focusing on the behavior, you are literally obsessed with the symptom. That'll get you nowhere, okay? It's like trying to get healthy and get rid of a cold by using more Kleenex, or shoving Kleenex up your nose so it won't run. I don't know. I know it's kind of gross, but we're heading into winter. That seems a bit ridiculous, right? Emotions drive behavior 100% of the time. 100% of the time, emotions drive behavior, okay? Boundaries are an emotional currency at a relational level. Boundaries are an emotional currency at a relational level. Boundaries were never, ever intended to be used to control, even though that's what you and I were taught, which is fundamentally the lie about compliance and respect. Boundaries were never intended to control. Boundaries are an emotional currency, because that's where behavior starts, right? At an emotional level, at a relational level where you build understanding and actually can create change. So setting firm and clear boundaries means that you need to connect to your emotions first to determine how do you want to feel, not how you want your teen to act. That's not a boundary. A boundary is how do you want to feel, and then making really clear and specific requests that are communicated, not commanded, around what it is that how you want to feel, okay? And yes, it does mean over and over and over. Why? Because boundaries require you to use compassionate, firm language so your teen learns new skills and responsibilities in order to operate within your clearly communicated boundary. Now, remember when they would learn to walk? When they were like a toddler and they were learning to walk? How many times did it take them to learn to walk? How many times did it take them to get that right? Type an estimate in the comments. How many times did they try and walk, crawl themselves up on a piece of furniture or a wall or your leg or something, and they tried to walk and literally fell flat on their face? I'm going to guess 10,000. Literally 10,000. Now, when they got that wrong and their attempt to walk was not working, did you at some point just get so frustrated, come to them and say, that's it, no, you're grounded, you're going to be a butt scooter or a crawler for the rest of your life because you obviously do not get this walking thing, it's embarrassing, I'm frustrated and I'm exhausted? Or did you pick up their squishy little hands and chubby little wrists, wipe the tears, kiss them on the cheek and say, let's try again, you got this? You see, when you set a boundary, what you're doing is creating a framework for your teenager to learn a new skill or take on a new responsibility. And if you are going to expect them to be perfect with that the first time, I guarantee you this will never work, because that is compliance. Compliance requires imperfection and immediate obedience. A boundary is a relational tool where you are saying what you will do, what you won't do based on how you want to feel, and then it's like you step away from someone with a bungee cord. When you step away from someone with a bungee cord, it creates resistance, right? And so that it takes a second for that resistance to build for your teenager to then come toward you. So it takes patience, repetition, just like the walking, a ton of repetition for them to be able to learn. Now, the repetition does not take on nagging and reminding, or you are not in the right place, my friends, okay? Nagging and reminding will not do it. It takes patience, which means knowing exactly how to say things, what to say, and what to do when it doesn't work, which isn't jumping to a consequence, okay? You are not tolerating them not getting it, because if you're tolerating them not getting it, you're back to actually begging and pleading. It's not working because you're begging and pleading. That's not a boundary. And that's what you're tolerating. When you're teaching your teen about your boundaries, you are mentoring them to step up and take responsibility, which does take patience, not tolerating them not doing it until you lose and build till you can't hold it anymore, then you're arguing and you're losing your shit, okay? That's not it. So it's an encouraging learning process, not a misuse of power and authority. You're also not trying to be nice or their bestie and dance around them, not walking on eggshells, not saying what you need to do, going back to begging and bribery. That's not a boundary, okay? So lots of parents tell me that this isn't working with their teens because they've tried it all. They've already tried it all, it's not working. Okay, well, I'm gonna venture a guess. You've tried command, control, super strict punishment, that's not working. And I'm also gonna venture a guess, because you're amazing, that you've tried the 180, which is being their bestie, being nice, asking really nicely 1,000 times, and just being like super tolerant and like, okay, you've got this, you can do it, please. And that's not working either. Here's what I want to let you know. What you've tried is two extremes, both of which are scientifically proven not to work and create less of what you want and more of what you don't want. You've tried two extremes. You have not actually tried the scientifically proven middle ground, the research-based, decades proven, which is where I have founded all of my programs and my framework in the scientific, the middle, okay? The middle ground. Most parents flip back and forth because this is all we know. This is all we've been taught, is the two extremes. So I believe you when you say you've tried everything. But I also want to venture, I'd like for you to be open to the fact there's actually a middle ground you haven't yet tried. And that's why it's not working. Okay, so what results when you get it right? What changes when you get it right? Well, this is what parents tell me. This was my own personal experience with my own son. You feel calmer. You're not dancing around, afraid to say what you need to say. You're not like losing your crap all the time. You're not, you're not like, there's way less arguing, yelling, losing your shit, constant consequences. Okay? You have an increase in clarity of what's important to you, why, and they're really specifics of how to ask. So your teen hears you in a way that pierces their like cone of silence, cone of self-focus, right? There's way less nagging, way less reminding, and a lot less just throwing up your hands and doing it yourself. There isn't that, okay? There's less anxiety about whether things are gonna get done or not. Like I've asked a million times, is it actually gonna get done this time? Is it gonna get done this time? This anxiety. Your teen actually, so you feel like there's more trust. You actually feel like there's room for you to be patient because you know your teen is more likely to get it. And when they don't, you don't need to go into massive, shutdown like a prison because there wasn't perfection. You have more room to stretch because your teen is stepping up. And there's more that resistance where you've like moved and set the boundary. Your teen is now coming toward you. So you notice that. Your teen is taking ownership of their responsibilities and their actions. Your teen actually feels more confident in themselves and their capabilities. You spend less time constantly trying to create this magical consequence, whatever the magical consequence that you must have been missing this whole time, and enforcing that consequence in order to actually create the change you haven't seen before. You can just stop that. Just like put it down. It's so much less exhausting. Which is the biggest question I get from all parents, by the way, is what is the consequence for this? Like I'm obviously missing it. What is the consequence for this? You're going to stop asking, what is the consequence? Because you're going to know that beginning to see lasting behavior isn't about like a never-ending consequence cycle that only creates short-term results. because you don't have a consequence problem. You have a boundary problem. Better boundaries, clearer, using them as intended with specific language, means you need way less consequences and corrective action. So you're not so exhausted. You have way less time to actually enjoy each other's company and do, like, I'm not saying you're going to be besties and you're going to be like, oh, we're spending every moment together. No, you're not. No, you're not. But I'm saying when you do spend time together, it's more enjoyable because there's at least a little bit of conversation. There's mutual respect. You feel more willing to do things for your team, but not out of obligation because you want to, because they are stepping up and doing as you are asking and starting to contribute and taking responsibility for their own, for some, to age appropriate, of their life, their environment, things that are their responsibility. You have more time for you. Shocker, you have more time for you to read, to spend time with friends, to actually sit down for a hot second. Because remember, you don't have a consequence problem. And you stop seeing it as a consequence problem and that you just haven't gotten painful or creative enough. You understand this is a boundary problem. So you're going to the source, not the symptom, right? So here is what will happen a year from now. And this is what parents who have used my proven framework with boundary setting have told me. Well, I set up a time to talk to my son about boundaries, and I asked him if he wanted to, when he wanted to talk, like now or later. Gave him two choices. And the two boundaries were about waking up in the morning and doing his laundry. And I must have done it right because when we were done, I said, when we were done the conversation, I said, so is there anything else you want to talk about? And he openly told me about an incident that happened at school where he feels disrespected by the teacher, and he was still struggling with the guilt. And I was able to use your tools and realize that he didn't need a consequence because he was already learning and growing from the situation, which included an apology to his teacher that was self-driven. I just needed to help him find the words. So yay, I don't feel like we could have had this conversation a week ago. That's what Carrie said. That was because she was building mutual respect by using boundaries in the way that they were intended. Angie said this. She said, my childhood was constant threats and ultimatums with almost everything. This really hit hard with me. So thank you so much for helping me see and implement new communication and proven methods with my kids. It's something I've always tried not to do with my kids, the threats. And the way you explain the difference between boundaries and threats was perfect. Thank you. Does not begin to express my gratitude. This feels more in alignment with who I really am. That's what Angie said. And then let's see. Oh, Heather said this. She said, I did a much better job. I was irritated because my daughter broke my boundary big time last night by climbing into bed and trying to force some snuggle time when I was tired and I'd already said no. So that ended up with a threat. But then this morning she overslept. And instead of going straight to a consequence, I used your tools and I set a boundary for how I would drive her to school or not. So that was my boundary, and it didn't end up in a big fight. The biggest thing that I've taken from your training is the understanding of her brain and how I need to give her time to learn the new skills and understand what she's going through so that she can better understand what she needs and get in alignment with that. So I've lived with a lot of triggers around abuse with this, but this is really helping me to make space for her actions to be different without the constant consequence cycle. Sorry, all of the time. And she tells me almost everything now to a fault. She's highly reactive, but just understanding how to use this is really calming her and me. And that's what Heather said. And then Nicola said this. I have to say I found your proven tools on boundaries very helpful and empowering. I'm always being told I'm too nice unless I'm pretty much scare my kids to death and they'll walk all over me. And until now, that was actually probably true. I found that the punishment method was really grating. So to hear that I can parent in a way that isn't compromising myself, but also building the connection and mutual respect that I want, was just everything. I really love your boundaries and consequences method, and I will never be taking the phone away again. And that's what Nicola said. So imagine if in a year's time, you actually had a relationship with your teen where you trusted that what you asked them to do was either going to be done, or they were going to let you know, if something went wrong, like homework, or, they missed the bus or whatever, but you weren't always on edge, wondering if things were going to get done. And worse yet, having to constantly figure out a consequence. You felt calmer, you felt more confident. There was emotional safety between your teen where you knew how to connect at that emotional level, which isn't linear and it can be messy, to build the understanding, which is necessary for boundaries. You know the exact language, how to make the basic request, set and hold the boundary, and you do also know what to do when your teen doesn't follow through, but not in a way that gets you on that constant cycle of consequences that only creates short-term results and no lasting change. It's in a way where when they don't do it, you also know exactly the language and the steps to take when they don't, that build mutual respect and lasting behavior change. So you can say things once and be done because it works. Okay. If this is something that you are struggling with, if boundaries feel like the bane of your existence and the thing that is upending like your relationship with your teen, you've tried all the things, you're exhausted, you just want to have something that works, and it works long term, and it doesn't have to be complicated because I walk you through every step. My signature program, the Empowered Parent Program, is opening on Monday, November 6th. Type waitlist in the comments once I get this posted. If you're on Instagram, I'd love a follow. If you're here on YouTube or on my Facebook community, type waitlist below this. I'll get you the link so that you are notified immediately when registration opens. You will get my proven 3-step framework that has helped thousands of parents of teens, gorgeous, caring, courageous parents just like you, and I use with my own teens, guinea pigs, based on science and research, to help you become a boundary boss and build the kind of connection that you want with your team. Thanks so much, everybody, for joining me. I will see you very soon in my program beginning on Monday. Bye.